Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. As you can tell, this is not Scott Vaughn. I'm Aaron Baker, guest hosting this week for Scott on the show. And this week we have Congressman Mark Alford with us as our special guest. And for those who maybe were living under a rock last year and aren't familiar with you and your career, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Aaron, good to see you. Well, I was a former newscaster for 25 years in Kansas City. Got tired of the fighting from the inside, being a lifelong conservative. And when Vicki Hartzler decided to run for U.S. Senate 2 years ago now, I decided to get in the race for U.S. Congress. And I'm honored to be there serving the people of the 4th Congressional District.
And just a year ago, you were a candidate. So what has changed or what's been the biggest takeaway for you since that time?
I think the biggest takeaway is the amount of work that goes into this. Look, I'm not scared of hard work. I've roofed houses in Houston. I've had small businesses. I had a horse ranch and muck 62 stalls a day sometimes. I'm dealing with a different type of horse manure up in D.C. The level of activity up there, the committees that we're on, House Armed Services, Ag, very important right now, and small business. Our team is able to help so many people in the 4th Congressional District. And it's rewarding to be there at this time in our nation's history.
It is. Now, you spoke to the work you're doing in D.C., but August travel is coming up. What do you have planned for in the district, and what will be your focus coming up?
Aaron, I think a big misnomer is that we get August off. If anything, we work twice as hard because we're back in the district. And this is how our founding fathers set this whole thing up, is the House of Representatives elected every 2 years. We've got to be in the district. We need to be in the district to have our ear to the ground. And so we're doing a town hall tour. We're going to be in 4 different cities, towns, municipalities in the 4th Congressional District, holding town hall meetings in person. I know there's some politicians who don't like doing that because they don't like dealing with everyone. But I'm not just a representative for Republicans, as you know, or conservatives. I'm a representative of 774,024 people, Democrat, Republican, politically agnostic. And so we want to hear their issues, what's on their hearts and souls, and so we can take those concerns back to Washington and hopefully give them the answers that they need. We have 3 congressional offices, one in Raymore, one in Boone County and Columbia, and one in Laclede in Lebanon. And so we're encouraging everyone to come to our office if you can in person with your problems, call and email, and we're going to be working for you, problem solvers for the people.
Now, that sounds great. Now, speaking of the district, we're here in Warrensburg today, close to Whiteman. What's the latest on what's happening at Whiteman, Fort Leonard Wood, and for veterans that you're working on?
Great people out at Whiteman Air Force Base. You know, it's home to the B-2 stealth bomber and also the A-10 Warthog. We have Black Hawk helicopters and NQ-9 drones. A great complement of assets to our military where we can be an effective deterrent to communist China. Whiteman Air Force Base is second on the list to get the new B-21 stealth bomber. On the second wave of those after an Air Force base in South Dakota. I've actually been out to Palmdale, California, where they're building the B-21. I've seen it. I've put my hands on this top secret aircraft. It is going to be a great complement to our assets to deter communist China. Unfortunately, we're losing the A-10 in the next couple of years. They're moving on to other aircraft and platforms that are going to complement the B-21. But we're trying to make sure that we keep the 442nd intact there. It is a fighter squadron. We love the folks in the 442nd. We're trying to keep all these units together.
Now, speaking of military and veterans, I was listening to Crest Radio recently, heard you making a speech on the floor about loans for veterans that are entrepreneurs. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm on the Small Business Committee, and actually this is a bipartisan bill with Sharice Davids out of Kansas. We will work together on the SERV Act. The SERV Act, testimony that came into our committee last month, in fact, one of those testifying was Taylor Burks, who is in the U.S. Naval Reserves, and he was testifying about, he's in small business now, how difficult it is for small business mindset people, veterans, to get out of the service and get the loans that they need to start up a business. And so we're making it more accessible for veterans to do that, whether it be in person at the Small Business Administration or on their website, to provide the services for veterans, because no one has a better mindset, I think, and the capabilities than a veteran to start up a small business and be a part of the fabric of America.
Now, speaking of radio, I was listening to you on the radio, of course, with your background in TV and your voice. You have a great radio and TV presence. Tell us a little bit about your efforts to keep AM radio alive in the U.S. and how that's going.
Well, as you probably know, a couple of months ago, this spring, Ford came out with an announcement that in their next model years, they were going to eliminate AM radio from their vehicles, especially the Ford F-150, which is made in Claycomo in Kansas City. I mean, the most popular truck in the world. And to eliminate that, I think you do a great disservice to the farmers and the ranchers, the producers, the people of rural Missouri, the 4th Congressional District, because they rely on AM radio for news and information, but also emergency alert systems. And so if you eliminate that, it really becomes I think in some cases a security issue for these listeners. And so we made a couple of floor speeches. We encourage Ford to keep it going. They've committed to do that for the time being. And we're now trying to get other car manufacturers to follow suit. I know we're going in a different direction when it comes to cars, and they want you, here's the deal, car manufacturers want you to, the future of cars is they're going to have electric vehicles as many places as possible. And then you're going to have to buy apps to run these cars. And so that is a long-term goal. It's kind of like buying a printer, and they charge you a lot for the ink. It's not the printer they're making money off of, it's the ink. And so we're still trying to combat that, because we believe that AM radio, it's a past, present, and future for rural America.
On the topic of rural America, you've probably been going to county fairs in your district. That's a huge influence on the lives of 4-H and FFA families throughout rural Missouri, something that matters deeply to you, something that matters deeply to me. Can you speak a little bit to the importance of ag, your father as a former ag teacher, and what that means to rural Missouri? Yeah,
my dad taught ag for many years on the high school level, and then horticulture on the college level. And he was an FFA sponsor, and he used to go to Kansas City when they had the conventions there before they moved it in the late 90s. We've had FFA students up 2 or 3 times to our office, and it's so neat to see those blue corduroy jackets up there with pride, asking intelligent questions and building their leadership capabilities. But the county fairs, we were just at Cass County 2 weeks ago, or last weekend, and that's where the heart of America is. We've been down to the county fair and the rodeo down in Webster County, Johnson County. We're trying to hit as many as we can, because that's the heartbeat of America. That's where people come together and they bring their goods and their wares and their attitudes of keeping the hope of America alive. And I love being around that atmosphere. It takes me back in time to when I was a kid in Baytown, Texas, and we would go out to the fair there and the rodeo and that's where I learned a two-step. So.
I'm sure your wife really appreciates your two-step
She
abilities.
loves a little two-stepping now and then.
Sticking with this theme, Sedalia is in the district, of course, a major city in the 4th District. The state fair is coming up. I feel like there's a lot of buzz around the state fair this year. Lainey Wilson's concert sold out in mere hours. They're having a bell-bottoms competition I see on Facebook.
I think I'll skip that.
To promote that event. But the state fair means a lot to your district. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of that particular event?
You know, the state fair really, I think, is the best in the nation. I've been to several. I was at G.T. Thompson, our ag commissioner, or ag committee chair. I went to his state fair back in February up in Pennsylvania. I'm excited that, I think for the first time ever, you know, we're putting together the Farm Bill that comes around every 5 years. It's very important. I'm on the Ag Committee, the only person of the Missouri delegation on the Ag Committee. And I have convinced G.T. Thompson to bring the listening tour for the Farm Bill to our state fair. It's going to be on August 14th. 10:30 in the morning. The governor's going to be there. Chris Chin, the ag director for the state of Missouri. G.T. Thompson's coming. Some members of the ag committee are coming. And we want to hear from the average person, the person in the key overalls, what they need to make their farms even more successful. We're very excited about that.
So obviously the drought is playing a major role in agriculture this year, and so the state fair buzz may not be as positive perhaps as producers think about ag and the weather impacts. What do you think the state fair can do though to continue to grow and reach constituents of yours, not just in Johnson, Lafayette, Pettis, but Jackson and Cass? How can suburban Missourians be reached by the state fair and bring that excitement there?
There's so much that Chris Chin and the board are doing out there. The expansion that's going to go on west of the current fairgrounds there, new buildings, new things to see. I think keeping the tradition alive is a big deal, but also reaching into the future with computer programs. You know, the way 4-H did a couple of years ago, my daughter grew up in 4-H. We had this horse operation because of it. But they started expanding into the urban core and offering photography classes and leadership classes and things that you wouldn't normally associate with 4-H. I think that's the direction you're going to see the state fair, because it really touches everyone. The state fair can have an impact on everyone's life, no matter where you live, whether it's urban, rural, or in between.
You are a man of faith, and you share that on social media and share that with others. And when you're out speaking in the district, I've seen you relate to your constituents at that faith level. Talk to us a little bit about social media and how you use it for a positive. And I think a lot of elected officials in Missouri could benefit by mirroring what you're doing.
Well, I promised God when I started this run 2 years ago that I could not do this without him. And so every speech I did, I try to include God or mentioning him in some way. And look, you know, people get on to me, don't you know there's separation of church and state? Yeah, I'm not establishing a religion. I'm establishing that I'm a Christian. And I'm establishing that I love God and I'm here because of him. There's nothing wrong in that. And one of the things I'm most surprised at up in Washington, D.C., how many strong Christians there are up there. I'm involved in 2 Bible studies. One of them was with G.T. Thompson in the Ag Committee room. And then the other is in a rotating into different congressmen and women's office. There are a lot of people up there who believe in God, who believe that we are here as a nation because of his providence and protection. And we best not forget that. I think we're more divided than ever before since the Civil War. And I think Ronald Reagan, I know he had the answer to this some 40 years ago when he said, it's time to reassert our trust in God. It's time to turn to God for the healing of America. It's time to realize that we need him more than he needs us. And I think we've lost that in America. All these things that you've seen, these distractions, and I think a lot of them are just pure evil, but we've taken our eye off the ball of what's really important.
You know, closing thoughts here. Mark Alford, again, great congressman. A year ago, you were a candidate, now congressman. Obviously exciting for me to see. How does our party, the Republican Party, unite behind one candidate and defeat Joe Biden?
Well, look, we're going to have to, number one, support whoever the nominee is. We've got to be firm and steadfast in that. We've got to quit taking pot shots at each other. I think Reagan said it once again. I forgot the exact quote, but you know, one of the cardinal rules is, you know, don't attack someone within your own party. I think we've gotten comfortable in that. I don't know if it's because of social media or we've seen some limited success, or we've seen that in the past where you attack someone and then you rise to the top. I think the better person in the race who touts his or her accomplishments and their ideas about how they can move the party forward and the nation forward. And I don't think it's about necessarily making America great again. I think it's about making Americans great again, inspiring people to greatness like Ronald Reagan did.
Very good. I want to thank you, Congressman Alford, for being our guest this week.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Good seeing you.
Stay tuned for the panel.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Thanks for joining us. Justice and Journalism with Judge Mike Carter. What I like to do is bring facts and circumstances from around the metro area with some local politicos, charitable causes, and let you decide for yourself if you like what's going on.
I'm in this for public service.
400 qualified jurors in some of the rural counties are actually really hard to find.
But when you're talking about low-level nonviolent offenders, when you put them in jail, you increase the likelihood that they turn into a serious offender.
Justice and Journalism with me, Judge Mike Carter.
Starting with just $300 to his name, Vivek Malik has never stopped working and has risen to become Missouri's state treasurer. Vivek Malik never forgets our duty to keep the American dream alive.
This is the greatest country in the world. There's a lot that divides us, but the one thing that unites us all is our love for this great country.
Vivek Malik, treasuring what we hold most dear.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren, Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to the panel portion of This Week in Missouri Politics, and I will let these folks introduce themselves, but you may pick up on a common theme that I've picked all of my closest friends to be on the panel this week. So we'll start ladies first. Kay Hoflander.
Hi, I'm Kay Hoflander, a longtime grassroots activist and involved in the Missouri Republican Party as chair and in various offices, and a member of the RNC, and just involved in all things Missouri politics.
Aaron?
Hi, my name is Aaron McMullen, and I am state representative of the 20th District, which is located in eastern Jackson County. It includes the towns of Independence and Sugar Creek.
Awesome. Speaking of state reps from Jackson County, Jeff Coleman.
Hi, thanks for having me. Jeff Coleman, I'm in the District 32, which encompasses Oak Grove, Grain Valley, and Buckner now. And this is my third term.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And a potential state rep, perhaps on the ballot this coming year, Brandon Phelps.
Hello there. Thanks for having me. I'm Brandon Phelps. I'm running for state rep for the 54th District, which actually encompasses the city of Warrensburg and Holden, and then a good majority of Johnson County. So appreciate being here.
Yeah, so we are in your future district right now.
We are here. That is right.
Warrensburg.
My home turf.
That's awesome. So we're going to go through a few questions with the panel. The first one is, I'd love to hear your take on the governor's race in the Republican primary, which perhaps most believe will determine the next governor of Missouri. So Kay, where do you think this race is headed?
Well, the way it looks right now, and I base it on two things. And one is money, donations, fundraising. And from what I've seen of that in recent days and a little beyond, I think Lieutenant Governor Mike Keogh is by all measures winning that money race right now. It's pretty hard to say otherwise. He's so far ahead with that. And the second thing I look at is grassroots engagement. And that's what are they doing on the ground, these candidates? And that's just as important. Sometimes grassroots can beat money. Not always, but it does happen. And when you can put them both together, you've got a winner. So I'm looking at Mike Keogh again. I'm a little incredulous to see what he's doing on the ground. Literally sun up to sundown. He crisscrosses this state 7 days a week. I don't know if he takes a day off. And usually his wife Claudia is with him. And what I've seen, and I've attended several things that he's been at, whether it's a small civic meeting or a Lincoln dinner or whatever, he visits with people. He doesn't just listen, but he really talks to them. And I know from years of working on the ground in grassroots that people want to shake the candidate's hand. They just want to shake their hand. They want to look them in the eye. They want to know what kind of person they are. And so when I look at those things, money and grassroots, right now, where it stands right now, I think it's Mike Keogh's to lose.
Aaron McMullen, Kay Hoflander's clearly in the bag for Mike Keogh. Are you thinking that he's going to win this race as well?
Well, I know that Ashcroft had a really, really good week with the Missouri Right to Life endorsement. And so that's huge in Missouri. So I know that Mike has the advantage with fundraising, but honestly, I think it's an even game, and it's anyone's right now.
Definitely the Ashcroft name means a lot in this state and the Republican primaries. Representative Coleman, what is your take on the race?
I've got to agree with the representative that the name is a really, really tough thing to overcome. I love Lieutenant Governor. He's doing a great job, and the engagement that he does across the state, as Kay said, is awesome, but that's a steep hill to climb with the name.
It is. Brandon Phelps, one thing to think about is, unlike treasurer or attorney general or something down ballot, people kind of pay attention and research who their candidates for governor are and who they are maybe beyond their name. What do you think voters are thinking about when they think about this governor's race and what they want, and who do you think's ahead?
Well, I'll tell you, Kay made a good point. The Lieutenant Governor has he has done a phenomenal job getting all around the state. I know in this part of the state specifically, and definitely in our district, he has done a fantastic job meeting the people, shaking hands, and let's look at trajectory, not just the money on hand and the money they're raising, but Mike Kehoe in the most recent quarter, he raised almost 3 times the money that Ashcroft did, and I think that's a telling story also.
I think you make some really good points. Aaron McMullen, speaking of the top of the ballot, let's go even higher on that ballot and talk about the Republican primary for president, how you think that's shaking out nationally and in Missouri, and what that will mean for our voters next year.
Well, in independents, especially in eastern Jackson County, Trump is a very, very popular candidate. And honestly, if Trump's on the top of the ticket, it's going to help everybody in my region get elected down ballot.
Now, when you talk about Trump being popular in independents, does that translate to Lee's Summit and Parkville and Platte County and Liberty, or are we talking about blue-collar independents, Missouri, Buchanan County, Missouri, Jefferson County, Missouri? Is it the same for all suburbs, or is it different?
Nope, just specifically the latter, just blue-collar working Republicans. That's who Trump is really, really pushing out the vote for.
And Representative Coleman, I think that your part of Jackson County still is probably that blue-collar part of the county, but you also are familiar with Lee's Summit and some of the places that are maybe a little bit more moderate, maybe a little bit more woke, as folks might say in the Republican primary. What do you think the presidential race, the top of the ballot, will mean to your elections and your neighbor districts next cycle?
Yeah,
this cycle.
It is a tougher region because in my district, Oak Grove, Grain Valley, and Blue Springs, and get a little bit of Lee Summit in there. It's 2 different types of districts. Lee Summit is really turning purple at this point in time, so we're getting that wokeness coming in, and that's something that we've got to take into consideration. I think that Trump getting on the ballot kind of hurts that district a little bit, but I don't know. Trump, DeSantis, I think that's where the race is, and I personally like both of them. So.
I have to agree with you that it's a 2-man race right now. Brandon Phelps, no one's accusing Warrensburg and Knob Noster of turning purple. What do you think the presidential race means this cycle to local Republicans?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go back to what I just said on trajectory. There are a lot of polls that have come out this week that show Trump has increased his lead over DeSantis, and that's happened just here in the past month and the past few weeks. And so I think that's a sign. When you look at the numbers back from July and August of 2015, of course things were a little bit different then. At this point in time, Jeb Bush was the leader, and in most of those polls, Trump was second, and a few of them he was third. He is clearly in the lead, and he is in the lead in most polls by at least 20 points, but in some of them 30 points.
You know, Kay Hoflander, you've seen these presidential cycles come and go. You were a big volunteer for George W. Bush in 2004, I remember.
True.
You know, Obama was where DeSantis is right now in his first election. Mm-hmm. Will things shake up, or do you think Trump will remain the lead and be our party's nominee?
That's hard to say. I've got a few feelings about it. I'm not sure. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that as a Trump delegate in 2016 and 2020 from the state of Missouri. We go to the RNC, we choose our delegate to run in November. I was totally a Trump supporter. I'm not against Trump in any way. I would have to, I like a lot about him, but what I'd have to characterize myself right now as, and I think there's a lot of people like me out here, is can he win in November? You're talking about the primary, I'm looking at November. And that's where I am, and I have concerns about that period of time from August to November.
As we think about the general election this coming cycle, we may see ranked choice voting on the ballot, but something I also want to talk about is the down ballot races that we have in the state, lieutenant governor, treasurer, some of the things that are the lesser knowns. Brandon Phelps, I want to start with you. What do you think is the race to watch when we talk about down ballot races?
Well, quite frankly, probably all of them will be interesting. I've been looking at the AG race. That's an interesting race there. There is a lot of money being raised, a lot of money. Of course, we're a year out, and so it's going to be really interesting to watch. But it's, you know, they're saying there's going to be as much money spent there, or close to, I should say, as the governor's race. So that one's going to be an exciting one to watch.
Okay, Hoflander, what's your pick?
Well, I'm going to go right now. The one that's capturing my attention is Lieutenant Governor race. And when Holly Rader announced, I was really excited about that for a couple reasons. One, and I'm just going to be honest about this, I think we need a woman in the Capitol building in Jeff City. We have none. And I think it's not just for that sake alone, it has to be a qualified woman. And she's strong and she's smart. And I can see her being an excellent lieutenant governor. I can see her getting through the rough campaign part of all this and presiding over the Senate. Not many people, male or female, can preside effectively over the Missouri Senate. That's a tough job.
I join you in being a big fan of Holly Rader. Aaron McMullen, what is your pick for the race to watch?
I think the treasurer's race is going to be really unique because we have an appointed person that's in there. And honestly, I really like Cody Smith. He's my budget chair, and he's really impressed me.
It's always important for a state rep to like their House budget chair. I think that that's a wise choice. Representative Coleman, what race are you watching?
Well, the Secretary of State is going to be pretty interesting, but we have the Senate Pro Tem that is in right now, Caleb Rowden, and I'm just not real sure that he's going to be able to finish out the race. I think the other two, Denny Hoskins, and I lost the name of the third from Springfield, but I think, thank you, Shane Scheller. I think those are the two primaries that we're going to see running the best race there.
I do think that that race is the most up for grabs. So I appreciate you all talking about the race of next year. All of those are going to be important to watch. And thank you for each for being on the panel. Let's do it again sometime, as they say. And again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. Again, I'm Aaron Baker, and thanks for watching This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.